Hey, wake up.
So can we move back? Oh, hey Dad. I mean, Jailvian. Hey. Hi.
Okay. Anyways, you're gonna be late for the... why do you have so many turtle shells?
Oh, those are for smashy things I don't like. For example.
You're paying for that.
Oh, well, you're really late for school.
No, it's cool, I have a time machine.
But wait, how did you actually...
Gotta go by. Hello? Hello? Are you ready to do your presentation? Alright, so I've gotten quite a few people ask me to make a video about this, so I'll make a best attempt to describe to you how I feel about school. So it's getting to that time of the year where a lot of us have to go back to school. Personally, I am not looking forward to that at all. You've probably heard this phrase 1,000 times before, but if I were to describe it nicely, I guess I am personally not fond.
It sucks.
Of the concept.
It's really bad.
Of school existing.
It's a flawed system that hasn't changed in over 100 years and nobody's doing anything to make it more tolerable.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people love school. You might like your friends, you might have some cool teachers, you might like the parties, or maybe you just really like learning. But personally, I can never quite think fondly of school for a lot of reasons. Some days I'll sit in class just looking out the window, thinking of anything I could be doing right now besides sitting through a lesson on something that I know for a fact I am not going to remember after I take the test for it. Sometimes my imagination goes a little wild. For example, I'll look out the window, and a dragon with a really cool hat will take me home early. Then he'll ask me, hey, do you like my hat? I just bought it yesterday and I'm kind of worried people won't like it. And I'll say, yeah, that's a pretty cool hat, dude. And he'll say thanks. Then I start wondering how in the world that hat stays on his head if we're flying so fast. Apparently this dragon is also a mind reader, because he then tells me that he glued it to his head so that it doesn't fall off. And I said, cool. So we're flying through the sky and we're basically best friends. And I ask him if I can ride him home every day. And he says no. And I said, why? And he says, because he fell asleep in class again. When I was a kid, one of the first songs I ever downloaded on my iPod Nano was I Don't Want to Go to School by the Naked Brothers Band. 9 years later, and this song is still my jam. Anyway, yeah, I've never really been a big fan of school at all. I originally thought as a small child that watching shows like Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide or iCarly, that school would be the time of my life. Or at least I thought junior high would be. One of the first schools I ever went to was a Catholic school, and I was given the choice of this school or a public school. I chose the Catholic school by accident, and hearing later how awful Catholic schools used to be, I was worried it was going to be very strict and very scary. Like my mom once told me that she went to a Catholic school that locked her in the closet or slapped her if she got a question wrong or something. But it was actually my favorite school ever. I made some really good friends, we did a lot of fun projects, I had really nice teachers, and our school even got on TV once because that's just how cool we were. One of the things we did a lot was we watched a lot of Christian cartoons, like VeggieTales for example. You know, the show where, usually the moral of every episode was like, God loves you very much, even if you fall in love with a cheeseburger or something.
Isn't the tomato called Bob the Tomato? Did anyone ever call you Bob the Tomato in school? I bet they did, because your name's Bob. I did, you know, like Bob Marley, Bob Saget, Bob the Builder, Bob Hope, Bob Ross, Anyway, I stopped going to that school after 3rd grade for pretty much one reason, because I didn't like the uniforms. Also, apparently the 3rd grade teacher at my Catholic school was arrested for possession of illegal substances, but I didn't like the uniform. So I moved to a public school where I could wear whatever I want, as long as I followed the dress code. And some of you can probably get me when I say moving to a new school can be very hard. You gotta meet new people, you keep getting lost, the schedule's different, and honestly the kids were a little meaner. Funny enough, this school really liked to put emphasis on their no bullying policy, constantly. And they still do at the school I currently go to. You know how schools are always like, don't do drugs? Well, we had that, but right next to the drug posters were the bullying posters. We had to sign a pledge, and we'd constantly have pep rallies and people singing and dancing about no bullying, la 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 la. But honestly, it didn't really do much. In fact, I think the school being so strict about it made people want to bully more because of how in your face they were about it. I think the same applies to the drugs too. And of course, I was one of the targets. Not for the drugs, but the bullying. Go ahead. Take a wild guess why you think I was a target for bullying. I'll wait. You guessed it, because I was a nerd. And short, very, very short. I've probably heard every short joke possible in the last 8 years. However, I wasn't the shortest kid in school. There were shorter, but people mostly targeted me for some reason. And you know what? It didn't bother me too much. I was a weird kid in general, so I can kind of see why. Anyway, I personally had a lot of issues with school. Some of these you may relate to, some of them you may not. I won't really go in depth yet about my critical thoughts on the educational system or anything. Just some dumb thoughts and stories. We'll get into the other stuff later. Hey, you know what else is dumb? Your face.
Really? Waking up for school in the morning is probably one of the worst things about school for me personally. For some reason, it always seems like it's 6 a.m. The moments before I gotta get up and get ready for school, I feel way too comfortable. The bed just feels so soft and nice and cozy. Then once I somehow magically get out of bed and go to class, some classes are more boring than others. The boring ones are usually the ones where time goes by so slow, the clock feels like it's going backwards. How's that even possible? Something I notice a lot is that people in school love to keep up with trends, and I don't really mind, but sometimes it can be really annoying. There was this one kid in history class that every single day would point at the teacher's shoes and go, Waterloo! And I guess it's tolerable, but it's even worse when teachers try to get involved. I remember in gym class they made us do dancing sometimes. In a class of like 50 students, including me, we're all taught how to do Gangnam Style, and we all had to do it. I'm serious. Little advice for teachers, you don't have to keep up with trends to be cool. For example, I once had a teacher who would tell us stories all the time about how we used to climb mountains, read a book a day, travel the world. He could even speak fluent German and apparently like 7 other languages, including Chinese, which he learned by living with this one dude for a few years, and he would teach the Chinese guy English, and then he'd learn Chinese back. I don't know, he just had so many funny and interesting stories to tell. He was an English teacher. He went off topic like 80% of the time, but he was honestly my favorite teacher ever. He gave us all like perfect grades just for listening to his stories, really. He was a little crazy, but I liked him. If you were in his class, you'd know exactly who I'm talking about. Anyway, after that, we go home, and usually the homework is way more than it has to be. Like, I get it. You want us to remember what you taught us. But honestly, I feel like homework in general is kind of unnecessary. Like, think about it. There's 24 hours in a day. We spend about 8 hours sleeping, and we spend about 7 hours at school 5 days a week. So that's 9 hours of time a day not doing school. And sometimes 3 of those hours will be dedicated to homework. And hell, sometimes I take naps after school too. And I have soccer practice, and I gotta walk my dog. And when all that adds up, it's honestly kind of ridiculous. Like, I honestly feel like homework really isn't necessary for a class to do well. But either way, I hope teachers start understanding that homework can pile up really fast, especially when some of us have more important things to do, like become YouTube famous in a very competitive market with a constantly changing algorithm and the odds of actually becoming famous being close to winning the lottery, but blah, blah, blah. I always had this issue where I always laughed at the worst possible times. I don't know why, but I'd always think about something funny, and whenever I tried to hold back a laugh, it just made a louder, more stupid noise. I once had to sit through someone's 4th grade presentation that was really bad, and the teacher gave me the most disappointed look ever when I couldn't hold back my laughter. Or when we talked about a bird called the blue-footed booby. You guys remember when there used to be nap time? I miss nap time. In fact, I really wish I appreciated nap time more when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I didn't even take the nap because I wasn't tired. Something you realize as you get older is that the older you get, the more stress you get. And honestly, this might sound a little selfish, but honestly, I think the older students deserve nap time a little bit more than the little kids. Is that bad to say? Because you guys might know that I'm pretty much a night owl. I work on projects at the last minute, and stress makes you sleepy. And yeah, sometimes I play video games on a school night. Don't tell my parents. If my parents are watching right now, hi. I didn't do that. I'm a good boy. I'm honestly just a night person in general. I feel like I'm more creative at night. That's why I made a whole video about it. With that being said, the following stories are examples of me being very sleep deprived and why you shouldn't follow the steps in my how to stay up all night video, unless it's absolutely necessary. Or if it's a weekend. There was once this time in math class where I was asked mid falling asleep on my desk how many inches are on a ruler, and I said, and I quote, like 10 or something. I had quite a few people ask me if I was drunk, but realistically I only got like 20 minutes of sleep that night, studying for a math test we were about to have shortly after. One day I came to school with sunglasses, slicked back hair, and a leather jacket. To this day I don't know why. I guess I was trying to stand out or something, but honestly I just looked really stupid that entire day. And people even took pictures of me on the bus and called me Elvis and asked me if I was drunk. There's also this really embarrassing story from health class where they were teaching us how to do CPR. Oh god. And you know how you're supposed to be on your side while you do it? Well, I was about right here. When I realized what I was doing, I just stood up and left the room. I like Elmo, but I don't like him that much. A friend the next day asked me if I was drunk. I wasn't drunk, I was sleep deprived. One day when I was at recess, I once accidentally fell off the playground equipment and did a split directly on something metal. I don't think I was really tired this time. I guess I just didn't pay attention or something. And I did a very high-pitched scream shortly after. I completely blacked out after that, and the next thing I remember is being at the nurse. People would not stop talking about it all year. Lastly, once I accidentally went to school wearing some very loose shorts, and I didn't wear a belt, so my pants fell down 7 times. I always wear belts now. Alright, enough with the stories. anyways, let's get down to what I think of the educational system. But before I tell you what I think, I brought along my good friend Jailvian to share his thoughts on school.
My school experiences were pretty mediocre, and I've never dwelled on it too much for the longest time. But after realizing that getting good grades there was mostly a walk in the park, that may be a big problem to actually learning in school. One instance of that was when I took physics under a teacher named, let's say, Mr. Kim. During our review sessions, our teacher would tell us what questions and answers would be on the test the day before we would take our tests. But the questions for our tests looked exactly the same as our review sessions with just different numbers. So getting an A there was very easy for me since going to the review sessions were exactly like getting cheat sheets. Sadly for my class, that way of teaching came to bite a lot of us in the neck because I believe our class average was so bad during the midterm and final that they were dropped from our grade. So you can say I got an A without doing anything in physics class. Then again, getting an easy A was pretty great for me since I didn't really feel like learning physics. I've got a lot more school stories on my plate, but since I only have a limited amount of time here, this is what I have to say about school for now. So stay in school. Or not.
Thanks, Jills. Make sure to check him out in the description. He's really good at art and his videos are cool too. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert when it comes to school. I haven't graduated school yet. In 2 or 4 or 6 or more years from now, my opinion on school may be different. Personally, I think a lot of the things they do in school is completely pointless and a waste of every student's time. And I feel like some things could be made more tolerable in the whopping 12 years or more of our lives that are spent in this system. This is a system where individuality and diversity is encouraged and promoted constantly like it's the symbol of schooling. But in reality, we're all treated like gray blobs that are exactly the same, that get the same tests and the same procedure and methods that have barely changed in the last 100 years. The goal of school is supposedly to prepare us for the future, but in reality it feels like it only exists to control our thoughts, influence our opinions and actions, and make us do pointless testing just to get good grades and make the school look good. And if you don't do well, finding a job can be hard, and even harder because school doesn't teach us how to get a job, or how to get a mortgage, or how to do taxes. A lot of schools don't even teach you your basic human rights. But we'll spend all this time on the quadratic formula or learning that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Like, it's cool that you teach kids to be kind and respectful to each other, you know, that's fine. Personally, I think history class is good for teaching us to prepare for the future and learn from past mistakes. And basic math and reading skills are essential for obvious reasons. But with all that, they also force us to get used to endless exams and testing just to do more exams and testing. And to quote Pink Floyd, all in all, we're just bricks in a wall that is barely changed. The same messy wall that is our educational system that is bound to crash and burn, but nobody is trying to fix it. It just stays the same. And honestly, something I really hope that happens one day is that our next generation of schools will maybe learn from those mistakes and make an effort to make some changes. At least teach us things that will help us in life, you know? And something most of all that always bothered me is how teachers, sometimes parents, and society in general sees grades in school. You know, most schools will have, say, math, science, history, and English, or something like that. And most schools expect you to do well in every class, regardless of how good the teacher is, or if you're struggling with it, or if it's just not your thing. That doesn't matter. Like, let's say you were really good at math, and you were pretty okay at science, but you were terrible at English, and you didn't do well on the tests, and you just weren't good at English. They will just straight up say, you are a failure, and then you'll have to keep doing English until you are acceptable, even if you hate English class, or have no interest in it at all. School sees you as a failure anyway if you don't do well on the tests that they give to you, and to everyone else around you. Like, honestly, I'd love to see schools be more innovative, and less stuck in the past like we've been the last 100 years. Since I was a little kid, English was always my best class. I was always told I was a good writer. People always told me like I should write a book or write stories or join the newspaper. And here I am on a platform where I write these videos and I share my thoughts with you, listening to me right now. But if I'm being completely honest, I can't say school has really helped me develop that skill. All it really did was tell me that I could do anything I want and be whatever I want to be, but at the same time holding me back from expressing myself and being creative. In the 7 hours a day over 200 days and over 11 years I've been in school so far, I just can't thank school for giving me this platform. Of course, I'll thank you for watching my stuff, and some of you guys even give me criticism that helps me improve my writing. I just can't say school has been helping me in life. And I know a lot of people who would say the same. For any students out there who feel like school is making you feel like you're worthless or stupid, my advice is to focus on your strengths. Don't let school make you feel bad because you're not doing okay at everything. Because if you're great at one thing and you really like doing it, focus on that, because maybe, just maybe, you'll be happier than the factory worker school trains you to be. Unless your dream job is to be a factory worker, then go for it. But you know, that's just how I feel. If you have any thoughts on school, let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious what you guys have to say. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and as always, good vibes, everyone.